That's going. What's that? And let's see. I wanted to talk about karma and reincarnation. Yes. They really made the search on Windows worse. All right. Let's go ahead and get started with today's open discussion and various topics. So really quickly fix a few things on my end. Let's open up with prayer for spiritual workers. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger in thy everlasting light. O God, thy will be done. Okay, hello everyone. Apologize for the extended absence. I was sick for the past 2 weeks and on self-isolation. Not yet back to 100%, but feel well enough to resume our open discussion in our Sunday classes. And I've been looking forward to catching up with everyone and going through all the questions. We've accumulated quite a few over the past couple of weeks, and hopefully everyone has quite a few questions ready for us as well, for us to discuss today. And depending on how the Q&A session goes, we may continue on with the subject that are discussed or answered in the Q&A, or we may touch on a couple of diagrams that I picked out referring to karma. As well as the mystic constitution of man, which is the overall teaching methodology that Nehemiah uses in structuring the lessons of the International Mystic Knowledge Center. But I just want to touch on a couple of points and a couple of diagrams, all of which you've seen before, referring to karma. But that'll come maybe in the second half of the open discussion today. Do we have any questions or comments to start off today's open discussion? A couple more minutes for more people to join us on the live stream. As usual, you have the option of joining us via YouTube or Zoom. If you join us on Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature to ask your questions audibly, or you can type your question in the chat. And if you're joining us on YouTube, you can also use the chat as well to post your questions. We'll get those addressed for you. Okay. Well, if there's no questions yet, do have about 8 questions that were emailed to us, and you can also email us your questions that you would either like for us to answer privately or to answer in a following open discussion. So the questions, many of the questions in this email are referring to topics we discussed in previous open discussions. So in the last, I think, 2 open discussions, we reviewed a mudra yoga presentation that Nehemiah put together that will be part of a series of workshops that we will hold in the future. So we're just previewing that presentation. So you can go back and take a look at classes 111 and 110 for that presentation. And these are a couple of follow-up questions based off of those off of that presentation. The first question is, there are so many mudras with so many benefits, but only so many hours in the day, and we should be of service. How can we decide which ones to incorporate in our existing practices?
Good morning, everyone. The understanding that all mystic practices is dedicated to service. One of the things that their society of Dr. George King stressed was that karma, service was karma. And one of the reasons why I think he said that is that when you go back to the ancient teachings, the word karma stands for action. And a balanced karma is all right actions. So the reason why we were given practices is to bring about corrective actions. So mudra, the same way you have all the yogas, is a way to correct our actions or balance our karma. That's why all yogas are connected to karma yoga, because karma yoga means to act or bring about actions. And those actions under karma are corrective actions to bring about balanced karma. So the reason why you're taught all the different mudras, and I think there's 198 given to the public mudras, is to bring about a corrective flow of energy or corrective action. So you can't go wrong in dealing and doing any type of mudra or mantra or yoga, any type of yoga, any one of the major 12 yogas. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, and the next question. In asana yoga, I assume it means hatha yoga, there are flows that work well, covering many positions. Obviously, sun salutations, Surya Namaskar, springs to mind. Is there a similar flow for mudras?
Mudra yoga interacts with all yogas the same way pranayama pranayama interacts with all yogas the same way mantra yoga interacts with all yogas. When you the yogas that all the yogas interlace, but the yogas that you will find in every yoga procedure is Nana yoga, Karma yoga, Raja yoga, Mantra yoga, Mudra yoga, and Pranayama yoga. All these interact. You cannot have another yoga without using these yogas. Point blank and simple. And as you evolve in your yoga, then Bhatha yoga is with all yogas too, because in your elevated level of consciousness, you will realize that every action must be dedicated and devoted to God. So all yogas interact at different levels, but all yoga use Nana yoga, Karma yoga, Raja yoga, Mudra yoga, and Mantra yoga and Mudra yoga. All yogas. All yogas. So that's just a level of understanding that you have to come to separate, to try to separate them or say I'm not going to use this and that is almost foolish and ridiculous, because when you examine each yoga, you will notice that you practice a little bit of all those major yogas.
Okay, next question. The mudras seem to follow a logic whereby touching the tip increases the energy of that finger / that element, while putting it underneath the thumb reduces / calms it. Is this correct?
I really can't go into that or say that, but I will say that each tip or ridge within the hand contact a certain flow and realm and type of energy. And in initiation, those things will be given to you. But there's a flow of energy that comes from each finger joint and tip of the finger. I hope that answers your question.
Next question. Wait, let me see this question. This is a follow-up to that question. So if that is the case, can we create our own mudras? For example, pulling down the finger under the thumb and touching the finger after exercise to bring stability and reduce movement?
We're told to correctly create your own mudra. Mudras are created by adepts or masters, and they're not really created, they're actually discovered, because they were actually part of our original design with the body from the great masters who helped design the karmic vehicle in which we are in right now, which we are told actually was done by Senate Kamara and his and his cosmic masters that came, the 48 cosmic masters that came with him to the city of Shambhala in order to design the perfect body to allow mankind to gain experience through cycles of reincarnation, to have them to get back or to the Godhead level that they need to get back to. So it's only not creating, it's really discovering the patterns of energy and how to control them. So I hope you understand that as well. I hope that clears that up.
Where did you hear this? Next question is there any danger with making up your own mudras? Dr. King said, paraphrasing, oh, and by the way, guys, any time you quote someone, particularly a master, try not to paraphrase, and if possible, as Dr. King says, chapter and verse, try and put the exact source of where you heard the quote or the information in the future. Dr. King said, paraphrasing, that curling the fingers in Gyan Mudra, I think it was, is a subtle request for death, but there are other mudras that will bring it on much more quickly than that. Could we ever accidentally discover a mudra like that?
No, and I don't know where Dr. King said that at, so
I don't remember hearing that.
Yeah. You can, I know there's a mudra where Dr. King gave us, well, he spoke about, he didn't give it to us. He, where you curl the thumb up into the fist, and you, in order to raise the power of Kundalini, in order to activate the power of Kundalini. And I think Swami Sivananda gave that as well, and his disciples gave that as well. But it's not bringing about, it's to help bring about conscious death, not death as we know it, but conscious death. And it takes many, many hours of practice and many lifetimes to achieve that if you start it for the first time.
Next question is, there is a law of initiation with, it says mudras as with mantra, but you can pass a mantra once it lives within you. Does a Or does or can a mudra live within you as well?
Mudras actually come to you from mantra. Once mantra begins to live within you, you gain the knowledge of mudras. So it's if you practice japa for long periods of time, then some of the visions and knowledge that's passed on to you is the knowledge of mudras, and it comes to you almost in a natural form. So that's why a lot of masters, or some masters, not all masters, but some masters tell you that mudra follow the same laws of mantra, because mudra came from mantra. Okay, so remember, mantra is a mantra is comically balanced. So it's a comically balanced action. So mudra have to come from something that is comically balanced. So mantra, that's why I tell you that mantra, that you cannot do yoga without mantra. You cannot do yoga without pranayama. And you cannot do yoga without mudra. Because karma, mantra, and mudra and pranayama is one and the same. We only separate it in order to understand it. The same as Jnana yoga. Jnana yoga and karma yoga is one and the same. We only separate it in order to understand it. It's like dissecting something in order to understand the design of it and the mechanisms of it. So throughout the centuries or millenniums, they actually separated these yogas in order to have us to grasp the understanding of it. So I hope everyone can understand that.
Okay, next question. Says, following on with that previous question, says there are many mudra posters and mudras given out in books. Is it okay if we use them and show them to others?
Yeah, one of the greatest teachers of the last century or so was Swami Sivananda and Dr. George King. Swami Sivananda and Dr. George King said, practice and allow that to become a part of you before you give it out. So if you come across a mudra or even a mantra, in fact, Swami Sivananda said with a mantra, you have to chant a mantra millions and millions of times before, if you receive it outside of an initiation. You have to chant that mantra millions and millions of times before it's equivalent to a a master or adept initiating you into that mantra. I'm not sure of the times. I think it was 10. I think it was 10 million times. I'm not sure of it, but it's in one of his books. I think it's in the book's comprehensive. What is it? I think it's comprehensive Java Yoga or something like that. It's published. I mean, you can just download it from the web. But in that book, he gives you instructions of how if you receive a mantra, uh, then you must chant that mantra so many times before uh, uh, before that mantra reach the equivalent of an initiation coming from a qualified initiator.
And in the mantra initiation recording that Dr. George King gave, the Mystic and Soul mantra, dynamic and soul mantra, initiation dynamic and soul mantra, he gives very clear, he lays out the law of mantra and as well as mudra in that recording, and as well as the second part of your question, shown to others. He also explains the law as it relates to close family, friends, etc. So do take a listen to that recording. Let's see, is so one question, there's this final question, which is not related to mudras, is I know that Jesus came here to die at a specific time to take on karma, but I never really had an idea how this would work until I recently read this quote from Dr. King. There's the quote, and the quote is, as a result of the allowed crucifixion of Jesus, man on earth had hundreds of more years in which to gain experience. Because you see, the earth was due for a catastrophe in those days. That's why Jesus came. That was his main mission, to take from the earth some of the karma of earth, and a great master is allowed to do this within certain limits. Maybe you know in your own way of healers who have given somebody healing and then had the condition themselves afterwards and suffered the condition. Well, this is the same kind of thing in a small way. Virtually, what they have done is to take on themselves the karma of this person, and it is allowed. Jesus took upon himself, on his own back, the karma of a planet. The question continues, could you explain a bit more about how this works and why at a specific point in time?
We really know very little about Jesus' mission. I mean, that sums it up right there. We understood that at that particular time, mankind was at a comic point where he where he was due to experience a great catastrophe from his own negative karma, from mankind's own negative karma in that region of the world, and it would have placed mankind back thousands of years. So Jesus took upon himself to come here to Earth and to enter the cycle of rebirth, or the cycle of birth, not rebirth, but incarnate into our cycles in order to take on part of man's karma and move it in a different direction. And he did this, and we understand that that by doing this, he lived as he called themselves, and at least as they recorded, they called him, as he recorded, he said the Son of Man. And then he went through, he brought about his death through invoking the powers to be, which shift a lot of karma to those powers to be when they actually had him executed. And then he used them they brought about death, but he brought about an ascension. He used their action to cause him to bring about a reaction, which almost nullified their evil action. But it brought back, to my understanding, it brought back a reaction back to them that moved the history, in a sense, where karma accelerated for mankind and for the leaders of those times, which, as we see back in history, it was a shift of power and leadership. And you can see that mankind, accelerated. All knowledge, everything accelerated in 2,000 years versus the thousands of years beforehand. So it was like mankind was at a standstill, and then after the death of Jesus, it began to accelerate. So look into that, yourself. And then also, I think it opened the door for other great masters to come to Earth too, by him doing what he did, because you can look in the history books and you can see many other great masters that actually came before him and came after him.
Okay, so that's it for the questions that were emailed. There's a couple of comments and questions in the chat. One comment says, to truly find yourself, you must see from two opposing perspectives. I don't know if I agree with that. There's a question here. How do I get started with meditation? I need to step out really quick, so I'll be right back. But that's the question. The question is, how do I get started with meditation?
Well, meditation is not really understood, because true meditation is the ability to bring about a conscious state of death in order to, by raising the power of Kundalini up to a psychic center and using that power of Kundalini to fully open that psychic center. So, that takes a long time and takes a lot of practice. But the road to meditation is concentration, which leads you into contemplation. And after you have contemplated for long periods of time, it will lead you into a true state of meditation. Now, it takes a while for concentration. Concentration is being able to calm the mind down and direct your thoughts down one channel. And this is done by many, many methods. The most popular methods are Japa yoga, which is mantra yoga, which is chanting mantra, sacred words of God or sacred names of God, through prayer, through various other methods of focusing the mind, and training the mind to to stop what Swami Patanjali called stop the modifications, where you calm the mind down and stop the grasshopping thoughts and stop and don't allow your mind to just blow in the wind, but focus your mind on one thing and concentrate on that one thing. Look at it on many different angles. One of the ways to do it is just taking an object and recognizing, you know, everything there is to know about that particular object, and try not to think about anything else. If anything else come into your mind, then it must be related to that particular object and helping you to describe that object. That's developing your concentration. Once you develop your concentration, you move into a contemplative type of mindset or consciousness, where when you think about something or see something, when you focus your mind on that particular thing, you begin to see the so-called abstract things of that object. In other words, you can see the aura of that object. You can begin to see and feel and understand the molecular structure of that object without anyone telling you, because you begin to read that object. You begin to become one with that object, and you can see multiple realms of existence of that object. You can begin to see the auric structure, the flow of energy, the makeup, the physical makeup, the astral makeup, the etheric makeup of that particular object, even the mind configuration of that particular object, because all objects have mind, because mind is the thing that holds energy and matter together. So contemplation brings about psychic abilities. What it does, actually, what we're told in simple English, that when you reach the highest level of concentration, you enter the levels of contemplation. Contemplation merges your physical senses with your astral senses. And as you begin to develop your contemplation, your levels of contemplation, the merging of those senses, you begin to see more and pick up information that most people can't pick up. And then that level of psychic, that level of psychism, which is the merging of the physical and astral senses, the psychic senses, after you have developed that, it merges with the etheric senses, bringing about advanced psychic abilities or psychic senses. And then from that level, you can bring about a true level of meditation, where your advanced psychic senses can move the flow of energy within the body to allow you to concentrate that flow of energy at the base of the spine, called Kundalini, and bring it up through Shushuna, which is the center of the spine, which is called the Brahmanati, within the Shushuna. And when you can concentrate the stream of tremendous concentrated energy, you can open you can use that energy to do a meditation. Open the psychic center and do a meditation on each peta or BJ, which will open that chakra. And it is there where the soul is bathed in the light of the spirit. And you become a knower of all things. And that's true meditation. The level of concentration with controlling the mind, focusing the mind, that's what most people call meditation today, but that's not true meditation. It's a road towards meditation, though. It is a road towards meditation. I hope that answer your question.
Are there any additional questions or follow-up questions or comments? All right, if there are no questions, then let's jump into a couple of diagrams. I selected quite a few, but I don't want to. It won't be an in-depth discussion. These diagrams covering karma and its complementary subject, reincarnation. The two go hand in hand. So usually whenever, like say, if you look back at previous classes that Nehemiah has given, he's always tied karma and reincarnation together, as well as Dr. George King, whenever he talks about karma, the two subjects are usually brought up together. And in fact, there is a recording of a lecture titled Karma and Reincarnation that you can pick up, Dr. George King, on the DearSociety.org website. Later on, I'll show a couple of resources that you can download and read, particularly books. One book in particular, I'll just show it right now since I have it up. If you go to our website, mysticknowledge.org, under ebook library, I think this is number 2, page 2 or page 3. There's a text here by Swami Vivekananda called Karma Yoga. And also on ebook library -1, there is a couple of texts here by Annie Besant called A Study in Karma. You can download that book. And there's also another book also by Annie Besant, just entitled Karma. So a couple of texts you can look at, as well as previous classes and lectures. Here's a lecture by Dr. George King called Karma Reincarnation. You can download it or you can get it via CD that go into in great detail, in great depth, the subject, as well as previous classes that Nehemiah has given on the same subject material. So first I wanted to we'll start off with a previous class that Nehemiah has given many years ago on karma. This was part of the packet. This write-up was part of a packet that he gave in that class to introduce the subject material. So I want to start with this write-up, and then we'll go into the diagrams, illustrations, which will help us get a better understanding of this topic. This class was called Karma, the Life Energies of Actions. So in this class, we went into the stored and released energies of karma. Every thought and action of man becomes the stored energy of experience, which becomes the guiding points of all present and future actions. The combination of all man's thoughts and actions are built on the personalities framed out of the restrictions of past thought and actions of man's own conscious awareness. Karma is the framework of laws that governs creation. Therefore, all actions operate within this framework of divine laws of karma. It is the pressurized force that conforms all manifested mind, energy, and matter to the divine laws of God. This force is that pressure that exerts itself from the smallest level to the highest level. Dr. George King describes karma as a pressure towards conformity of the laws of God. Every action has a reaction, and that reaction causes another action, which creates a reaction, which creates a never-ending cycle of cause and effect. The constant cause and effects brought about by the thoughts and actions that write the karmic patterns in which we live through in order to experience life as we know it. Actions are considered to be all mental activities, which are thoughts, emotions, inspirations, and all physical actions, which are conscious actions, semi-conscious actions, and unconscious actions that leads to all physical movement. Every action releases an energy pattern that places a positive or negative pressure on all present and future actions. It's like adding extra weight or energies to yourself. The energy patterns that manifest themselves as extra weight is a negative karmic pressures designed by the law of God to limit your actions and resources to energy supplies. The energy patterns produced from positive karmic actions are energy boosters or fuel to strengthen you on your journey in life. In the third physical law of science by Sir Isaac Newton states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's categorized as the law of propulsion. But about 1700 years before Isaac Newton, there was a man known as the Lord Jesus, who stated, "As you sow, so shall you reap," which actually means the same thing. And about 2300 years before Sir Isaac Newton, there was another man known as the Lord Buddha, who stated, "For every action, there's a reaction, and it's opposite but equal." These statements are great descriptions of the divine laws of karma, which are the divine presence of God in action, holding everything together and propelling life forward under the balanced karmic pressures of life. So from that, let's switch to the handouts, the diagrams, to go a little bit further into this subject. And so many of you will recognize these handouts because you've looked at them before. Oh, screen sharing is paused, so you can't see what I'm looking at. I've extracted these from the collection of diagrams that Nehemiah put together, but we've used them in several previous classes. So these are recognizable, and many of them, if not all of them, are available in the shared Google Drive folder, so you can take a look there. The link is in the description as well as in the announcement for each class each open discussion class. So first we'll start out from the macro level, and then we'll come down to the micro human level. And we'll first look at this diagram describing the karmic framework of creation. This is also part of a package that goes into, presented in other classes, which goes into much more detail about the creation of the universe and so forth. So you can look at that, but just pull this out of that to quickly go over the subject material. So you have the absolute, the endless potential, which releases a vak, with the initial creative vibration that releases the endless potential. Vak is nada, a soundless sound vibration that connects everything and creates constant movement. From the vak, they have the shakti, composed of jnana, and then chitta, mind, prana, power, ananda, bliss or love. And it comes to the mahabhutas, which is akasa, vayu, tejas, apas, and prithvi. All actions fall within the laws of karma. Karma is the framework that the absolute God manifested creation within. Every action made is restricted and limited by the divine law of karma. Karma is the law and power that allows the movement towards involution and progress towards evolution. We live, move, and have our being within the confined laws of karma. And that's the illustration you see here in this blue sphere. You have the karmic framework of creation, and within it, all of creation operates. So that's what these multiple pictures of galaxies represent, that all of creation operates within the framework of karma, or divine law. And then again, you hear another illustration of this framework, the absolute, and the laws of creation. Then the galaxies, the central suns of the galaxies, the lords of karma, the sun, the earth, planets, moons, and then down to even the mineral, plant, animal, and human life. All of which operate within that karmic framework, or that framework of divine laws of karma. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the chat. It doesn't necessarily have to relate to the subject material we're covering right now. It could be any question or any subject you have. You can post in the chat, and we'll be glad to answer that for you. The basic meaning of karma is action. Karma, or all actions, is pressure towards conformity to the divine laws of God. The meaning of yoga is to make union with God. Therefore, all yoga is an aspect of karma. Jnana yoga is the actions of making union with the divine through knowledge and wisdom. Bhakti yoga is the action of making union with the divine through devotion to God. Hatha yoga is the action of making union with God, with the divine through physical well-being. Raja yoga, the actions of making union with the divine through mental development. Mantra yoga is the actions of uniting with God through the use of sacred holy sounds of creation. Mudra yoga is the actions of uniting with God through the practice of mystic hand signs. Kriya yoga is the actions of making union by molding all actions of life into divine action. Kundalini yoga is the action of uniting with God through full conscious awakening of Kundalini. And Laya yoga is the actions of uniting with God through moving the awakened Kundalini power up the spine and activating and closing each chakra in deep states of meditation and samadhi. And in this diagram, this is similar, same information. But represented visually or graphically. And I do believe this is also available in the shared folder titled Karma Yoga Diagram. So you have Jnana Yoga, which is Yoga of Wisdom, and Karma Yoga branches out into Bhakti Yoga, karmic actions, devotion of God. Number 4, Hatha Yoga, karmic actions of well-being. Number 5, Raja Yoga, karmic action mental development. 6, Prana Yama, karmic actions of breath control. There's a little bit more. 7, Mantra Yoga, karmic actions of sound vibration control. 8, Mudra Yoga, karmic actions of hands and body movement. 9, Kriya Yoga, karmic actions of daily development rituals. 10, Tantra Yoga, karmic actions of looming the yogas, or yoga together. 11, karmic yoga, Kundalini Yoga, karmic actions for awakening the vehicle of consciousness. And 12, Laya Yoga, karmic actions for conscious dissolution and restoration. So the basic laws of karma. Karma means actions. All actions consist of good, bad, and a mixture of both. So karma is action and reaction. Karma equals action and reaction, which is opposite but equal. All actions are either white magic, which is all right actions, black magic, all wrong actions, or gray magic, which is a mixture of right and wrong actions. Intention describes the type of power behind any action. So good intent sets in motion good karma. Bad intent sets in motion bad or negative karma. In basic man, if every good action equals a higher percentage of good actions plus a lower percentage of bad actions. Then also you have in basic man, you also have a combination of every bad action is a higher percentage of bad actions plus a lower percentage of good actions. And then right karmic action is actions without intention or expectation of rewards. It equals the highest percentage of good actions karmically plus a 0% of bad actions karmically. We have a discussion here about love energy, which is a preservative energy. It says positive love energies radiated, it multiplies itself by 4 when faced by resistance of its target until it breaks through the resistance. And negative love attachment, negative basic love manifests itself as attachment, which multiplies man's desires, which creates the actions of greed, possession, jealousy, anger, and hatred. Okay. Next, let's take a look at the karma as it relates specifically to us and our mystic makeup, our auric makeup, our mental makeup, and then later on we'll look at how these positive karmic actions of karmic yoga can be used for spiritual development. Is there anything you wanted to add, or anyone?
No, not really. I was thinking that with this chart, we should, which I'll do later, but we should emphasize, which we do in number 1, but we should make number 1 God and then introduce spirit, you know?
Yes, and you do in other handouts. I just didn't find, pull up that handout in time. But you do make that emphasis in other mystic knowledge makeup of man diagrams and illustrations. Okay. So first, let's take a look at the mystic constitution of man. Metaphysical insight on the internal nature and structure of man, or in the bodies in which we operate here on Earth. On the left-hand side, we have a description or illustration, sorry, of the human body and the human aura, of the human aura and its respective bodies. In the light gray area at the top here, represents the positive auric energies that are made up from the radiated vital and mental energy configuration from the three upper major chakras. And those three upper major chakras being the heart, Anahata chakra, the throat, Vishuddha chakra, and the Christ, Ajna chakra. And then at the lower region, you have this darker gray area, which represents the negative auric distortion as a result of the lower vital and mental configuration energies from the three lower major chakras, namely the solar plexus, Buddha chakra, the sex center, Svadhisthana chakra, and the base of the spine chakra, or the Muladhara chakra. So before we looked at the creation of the universe under the divine laws of karma, and where we had the absolute, release the word Vak. And so we looked at it all the way down to the formation of the planets. There's other diagrams that go into much more detailed illustration of that creation process, down to the mineral, plant, animal, and human. But here we're going to go into more detail about the human formation from God, the absolute, and spirit, a divine spark of God within man, which is the endless potential of power for the soul of man, unmanifested as spirit, yet manifested through the soul as expressed power. To soul, the manifested power of the spirit, the expressed intelligence of the higher self that's above consciousness. It becomes the main vehicle of expression for the spirit to manifest its directives of involution to evolution. 3, Kundalini, a vehicle of consciousness for the soul. Kundalini is a configuration of Shakti power molded by the soul in order to express a portion of the soul's intelligence through a field of limited consciousness. So remember, the Shakti power is pushed down, Shumna, Brahmanadi, and it rests at the base of the spine. It's pushed down, the Brahmanadi, all the way down to the base of the spine, the Muladhara chakra. And there it goes into that 3.5 knot configuration, where the vast majority of that, it takes on that Kundalini attribute, you can say. And there, the vast majority of it is dormant, but that is the energy that is used to animate the bodies. For the nadis, a matrix of traveling thin lines of subtle energy particles, creating thousands of geometrical configurations, producing 108 intersections that operates as points of consciousness. There are three types of nadis. One, the Sushumna nadi, which is the flow of negative and positive prana moving in one direction. The Ida nadi, which is a negative flow of prana. And three, the Pingala nadi, the Sushumna is negative and positive. Ida is negative, and Pingala is a positive flow of prana. By the chakras, this is a series of vortex centers used by the soul because it's aligned with the flow of pranas radiating from the cosmos through the sun, earth, and moon. The soul pushes the nadis through these vortex centers or chakras, creating nadi knots that is configured to operate as segments of consciousness. The lower major chakras process a base aspect of mind substance and frequencies of prana through its network of nadic consciousness. The upper major chakras process the higher aspects of mind substance and frequencies of prana that radiates from the network of nadic consciousness. Six, the auric bodies, a series of magnetic fields of higher frequencies of energies configured to hold the soul's intelligence throughout countless incarnations. These auric bodies are the manifested energy patterns produced by the soul, configuring the original flow of Shakti consciousness into Kundalini. The nadis and the nadi knot configurations to produce the vehicles of consciousness and the source of power for the vehicles of expressed consciousness. Seven, mental bodies. This part of the soul's vehicles of expression consists of the supraconscious mind, subconscious mind, and the conscious mind. There are three major divisions of man's. These are the three major divisions of man's mind that operate as mental vehicles of expression for the consciousness. Number 8, etheric bodies. The etheric bodies are the subtle vehicles that the higher conscious of man operates from. It is made from the mental and energy configurations of the upper chakras from the heart chakra upwards. Although the etheric body is in a projected state, although the etheric body in a projected state can move through the entire realms below its level of operation and the realms above as karma permits. Number 9, subtle flows of prana. These pranas are the 5 major pranas that are radiated from the sun and are conditioned by the earth, moon, and planets of the solar system. They are also conditioned by the auric fields of man, which produce or express the 5 major pranas that assist him in his gross astral existence and gross physical existence and expression. Number 10, astral bodies. The energy configuration of this vehicle of expression is a result of man's fall of consciousness. The astral bodies are made up from the mental and energy configuration of the lower chakras from the solar plexus chakra down. The makeup of the astral body is the result of distorted energy patterns that distorted energy patterns of man that keep mankind locked into a passionate state of mind and a series of subtle desire bodies that resonates all the passionate traits. The astral body is the subtle counterpart for the gross physical body. This is also the result of the fall of man's consciousness. The physical realm that we now exist within has become the middle passage for the human race. The physical body is the gross aspect of all the above vehicles of consciousness and the vehicle of expression. Being that the physical realm is the gross aspect of all the above aspects, it has the greatest amount of concentrated karmic pressures in active manifestation. Therefore, it is the best realm and the best body to actually burn up negative karma and also creates positive karma under these conditions. In other words, while in the gross physical incarnation, you can advance multiple lifetimes in one life because of these concentrated karmic pressures wrapped in the physical body. Okay, so that is a brief look at the mystic constitution of man. Thereon, we'll look at the mental state of man's mind, and then we'll go into a brief statement on the operation or the primary functioning of the chakras. And all of this is to better understand how that divine law of karma affects us and our physical, mental, and spiritual makeup. So we'll start off on the left, says the auric body is the original manifested subtle body of the soul. It is created by the soul to allow it to gain experience in multi-levels of limited states of consciousness through countless reincarnations. And those multi-levels of limited states of consciousness, looking like, for example, the etheric, astral, physical bodies, and so on. The mental bodies, a series of auric fields. I don't know if you guys can, might be too small for you to read on your screen, but you can also, this diagram is available for download, I believe, in the shared folder. Mental bodies is a series of auric fields that make up a configuration flow of positive and negative subtle energies coming together to produce various levels of consciousness. The soul uses these mental fields as vehicles of consciousness that extends from the base chakra, Muladhara chakra. The three main levels of consciousness are the superconscious mind, the higher level consciousness where inspiration, intuition, and pure spiritual knowledge or sattvic quality of mind flow from. At this level of mind, the intelligence is self-aware of soul and spirit and therefore operates strictly according to the laws of karma or God. It is the conscious realms of the adepts and master. Next level is the subconscious mind. And this level of consciousness takes care of all involuntary bodily functions. It measures every drop of blood, breath, thought, sound, and actions in accordance to the karmic pressures being imposed upon you. This level of mind also stores the memory of all thoughts and actions made by us. At this level of mind, also realizes that it is part of a whole and it is manifested to and for specific duties and functions to benefit the evolutionary journey of the soul. The final level of consciousness is the conscious mind. And this level of consciousness is the basic mental level of mind that perceives the world through the sense organs and sensory perception of the gross physical body and the emotional mental body. This level of consciousness has the most basic level of self-awareness or self-consciousness. This level of consciousness is plagued with all manners of mental psychosis because of our false knowledge obtained through our limited sensory perception. And then we look at here we introduce the concept of samskaras. And samskaras, these are the scars or mental impressions left behind in the aura from the thoughts and actions and deeds of man in their day-to-day activities. Right? So remember that idea of some scars, because earlier we looked at the diagram describing the basic laws of karma, as well as the positive karmic actions, negative karmic actions. Now we talk about some scars. We're going to look and examine the specific effects that these positive and negative karmic actions has on our auric framework, particularly our mental and physical makeup. So here in this diagram on the right-hand side, we have illustration of the auric body. The jagged and wavy lines you see going around the circumference of the aura of the auric body is the virites, activities within the mental bodies of the aura. It is made up of all the sensory perception and input, input and output. It's the unfocused mind. It's the untamed mind, the part of the mind which craves or desires exterior or external stimuli. It is that part of the mind that the Maharishi Patanjali referred to when he said to stop the modifications of the mind. Or example, those grass-hopping thoughts, when you try to concentrate or focus, the mind is constantly bouncing around all over the place. The practice Dr. George King, one of the practices Dr. George King gives is referring to kind of like not a fishing line, but when you're trying to concentrate or develop your concentration, you let the mind run around, bouncing from thought to thought. And when it gets tired, in the same way, when you're fishing, you let the fish run with the line until it tires itself out, and then you gently reel the fish in. The same thing with the mind. Let the mind run, tires itself out, and then when it does, you gently reel it in, and it will turn to you, the real you, for guidance. You can find more information about that particular practice and others from the Dear Society in the book Contact Your Higher Self Through Yoga, and the lecture Concentration, Contemplation, Meditation, and in another book, Realizing Your Potential. I think that practice is given there as well. The gray blobs and the red outlines is representing some scars that are created from our thoughts and actions. Here, right hand side, the chakras serve as an output of mental thought forms. The vortex centers of power, chakras, manifest the organized thought forms which spill out into the aura, where it circulates until it's ready to achieve the directed purpose or fall totally into a samskara state. So in the mental body, you have these samskaras, and some of the negative traits that are represented here in these chakras. For example, in yellow here, the solar plexus center, will still go cravings, guilt, revenge, deceit, possession, laziness, lust, envy, fear, selfishness. In the sex chakra, pride, attachment, hatred, passion, malice, jealousy. And the base of the spine, desire, anger, greed, delusion. These negative states of mind could produce, emotions produce these negative scars and virites, which pollute the mental bodies. And we'll see, think I'll skip this one and go into, okay. So the karmic energies of the auric bodies. So we just took a look at the understanding the mental state of man's mind and some of his negative traits. And so we'll go more detail about these samskaras and the karmic energies of the auric body, the stored and released samskaras. So in this diagram, we actually look at the particular layers of the aura and the samskaras, which are represented as these green orbs. You remember we talked about how the chakras are vortex centers, which manifest the thoughts that we produce out into the aura. And so we'll look at how, as you can see in the center here, we have all these samskaras. And as they move outwards, they manifest themselves. They get closer and closer to the veil or to the outer layers of the aura. Two quotes here: "As you sow, so shall you reap." The law of karma, as described by the Lord Jesus, and action and reaction is opposite but equal. Same law of karma as stated by the Lord Buddha. So in the center here, we have stored samskaras from past thoughts and actions, from life experiences. And then as we move layer by layer out towards the X in the aura, we have samskara in the first layer here that's been awakened by actions and present conditions. And then those samskaras move further and further to the surface by under the present circumstances, like actions and present conditions. And then further and further outwards, samskara is about to manifest itself. And as you get to the outer layer, it is a samskara manifesting itself. Now, samskaras, although most times when you hear samskara, you hear referred to in a negative sense. You can have both positive and negative samskaras. In this illustration here, we have some samskaras here that fuel like fatherly skills. You have some samskaras that fuel professional abilities and skill, athletic skill, and then various types of social and partying skills are presented as samskaras. As we are in a particular circumstance or environment or condition, those embedded samskaras move further and further to the outer, Nehemiah refers to them as the valence levels of the aura, and express themselves depending on what circumstances that we're in. So there are three kinds of karma. Sanchita karma is accumulated karma from past thought and actions, or from past lives. Parabhar karma is your present karmic state of being, the karmic energy configuration that make up your present subtle bodies and physical bodies. And Vartamana karma is karma acquired during the present lifetime and that will bear fruit in the future. And the three fundamental types of karmic actions is sattvic karma, actions performed without attachment by a person who is not looking for return on their actions. Rajas karma, actions taking in a state of embodied consciousness. Jiva, the individual state of I, pure attachment and ownership of Maya. And tamas karma, the actions of an individual that is deluded and confused and have no concern for moral or spiritual intention or use in actions. Negative and positive samskaras in the auric body. Negative samskaras cloud and contaminate the auric bodies and limit sensory perception and spiritual development. Positive samskaras clears the auric fields and enhances sensory perception and spiritual development. So on the left-hand side here, you have these negative scars, including attachment, anger, malice, greed, jealousy, envy, pride, desire, passion, lust, delusion, and all other impurities. They cause all these clouds and limitations in the aura, which are represented by these various lines. Clouding up the aura. And on the opposite end, we have positive scars: attachment, unselfish love, kindness, devotion, prayer, mantra, yoga, mudra, positive visualization, unconditional sacrifice, acts that kill desire, acts that kill passion, acts that kill lust, service without being paid or expectation of reward. Those types of samskaras and actions and thoughts, emotion, clean up the aura, as you can see here, removes many of those clouds and contaminants from the aura by having a cleaner auric structure, thereby enhancing sensory perception and spiritual development. Karma and reincarnation. The auric body is the vehicle the soul uses to move from one life cycle to the next, while gaining experience on the various planes of existence. The physical plane is used for the soul to gain the gross physical experience on the physical realms of existence. The astral plane is used by the soul to gain mental experience on the subtle physical realms of existence. The accumulation of thought and actions of the physical determines the astral experience that you will live through on the subtle physical worlds after death. The accumulated thoughts and actions of the physical and astral planes determine the next physical life you will live. And the quote here, even if thou art the most sinful of all sinners, yet shalt thou cross over all sins by the wrath of wisdom. As the burning fire reduces fuel to ashes, O Arjuna, so doth the fire of wisdom reduce all actions to ashes. Verily, there is no purifier in this world like wisdom. He that is perfect in yoga finds it in the self in due season. So any questions, any comments? So let's finish up with this last diagram, talking about spiritual development through applying positive karmic pressures of the 11 yoga techniques. Okay. Shiva plus Vak plus Vak plus Shakti equal karma or action, or the framework of all creation. And then again, we looked at these before. We'll look at them again as the positive karmic pressures for spiritual advancement. Jnana Yoga, the wisdom for all action. Karma Yoga, the law that governs all actions. Bhakti Yoga, placing devotion to God into your actions. Hatha Yoga, balancing all physical actions to better the health. Raja Yoga, harnessing the mental power to mold and shape prana and matter. Mantra Yoga, using japa to tap into the higher self and calibrate the chakras. Mudra Yoga, the seat of power to harness, seal, redirect, and redistribute prana. Kriya Yoga, incorporating the divine actions of the yogas in your daily life. Tantra Yoga, looming the yogas together to awaken the power of Kundalini. Kundalini Yoga, techniques for awakening the consciousness. And Laya Yoga, moving Kundalini up the spine during to bring about a dissolution of consciousness. Karmic actions balanced with Nani, wisdom, equals unselfish love and service to all forms of life. So those are the handouts and discussion I wanted to cover in relation to karma. Again, for more information, going a deeper study of the topic of karma, reincarnation, and particularly spiritual development through applying positive karmic pressures. You can go back and look at those sources I mentioned earlier, particularly Karma and Reincarnation lecture by Dr. George King, Karma Yoga book by Swami Vivekananda, was it? Yes, Swami Vivekananda, Karma Yoga. And it's a text by Annie Besant about karma, study in Karma by Annie Besant. And I also invite you to go back and look and review previous classes that Nehemiah has given on the subject karma, reincarnation, life on the realms, spiritual advancement, Raja Yoga, Tantra Yoga, Limit Yogas. And you can also send us some questions or comments you have about the subject or any subject, and we'll be glad to answer those for you. So any other final questions before we close out today's sessions, or is there anything you wanted to add as we close out, Nehemiah?
No. I think everything is self-explanatory.
All right, if there are no final questions, let's close out today's open discussion and various topic session with reciting the new Lord's Prayer. Excuse me. The new Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up, and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength, so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. O great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Granted energy to sing on, forever and forever. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance, your participation, questions, and patience. Again, if you have any additional questions or comments or topics that you would like for us to cover in either future open discussions or future lectures, feel free to email those to us at Mystic Knowledge Center, all one word, at gmail.com. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.